Good afternoon, everybody. This is Lara from Pure Elliott Wave with your daily update for Bitcoin, Ethereum and XRP. I hope everyone had a really lovely weekend. I know I sure did. Bitcoin's moving up a little bit today. XRP's moving up more strongly. We'll get to that last. I'm going to step back and have a quick look at the weekly technicals now that we have another weekly candlestick complete. So the last weekly candlestick for Bitcoin shows an increase in range and an increase in volume. That is really good to see. Still holding resistance at 35,000. I expect we may break above resistance at 35,000 this week, and if we do, look out for next resistance at 41,100. Resistance at 35,000 is stronger though, so if it gets up to 41,100, it's possible it could just slice on through that and go on up to next resistance, 48,000. Volume substantially declined in recent months, but the last completed week does show a really strong increase in volume. ADX at the weekly time frame tells us there's still an upward trend, and at this time frame it's in a really early stage. It's such a long way to go before this trend reaches extreme. This is a very, very bullish look from ADX. RSI is only just entering overbought, but there's a long way to go before this gets as overbought as it can get, and they're not expected to exhibit multiple bearish divergence before the trend comes to an end. Money flow is still in neutral territory. There is a little bit of bearish divergence, but I'm not going to count that for this point until a pivot develops, and there's no pivot. So I've learned the hard way over the years. Wait for your pivots in price to develop before you identify matching points with RSI or money flow to see if there's divergence or not. There's no pivot here with price, and so don't look for divergence here yet. On the daily chart, so far, the session has got a small range and still holding at resistance at 35,000. Still may have a little bit of work to do before it can break above that. If we can close above 35,000, I'd expect price to move up and away towards next resistance, which we saw on the weekly chart. The 50-day moving average is getting ready to cross above the 200-day moving average, and if that happens tomorrow, that would be a golden cross, and so that would negate this previous death cross, which happened on the low of 11th of September. These are a lagging indicator. Of all of the indicators I use, I give least weight to moving averages. I use them as like a lagging confirmation. So it would be nice to see a golden cross tomorrow if we get that. That would add support to this upward trend. There's overall declining volume as price moves sideways, but for the very short term, for the last two completed upward sessions, there's a little bit of a push from volume. Overall, the volume profile is still very strongly bullish, with strong volume pushing price higher on those strong upward days last week. ADX is very extreme, but still not as extreme as it can get for this market. ADX tells us there is an upward trend in an extreme stage, but that often reaches extreme early on in a bullish run for Bitcoin. RSI is overbought. I'm not going to, again, consider this divergence because a pivot has not developed in price. If a pivot does develop in price, I'll then look at the corresponding points with RSI to see if there's any divergence. Money flow is still back in neutral territory, so there's a long way to go before the combination of ADX, RSI and money flow reaches extreme as they can get for this trend. My Elliott Wave count for Ethereum has added a target again for the fifth wave for minute wave 1 to end. If this target is wrong, it may not be high enough. I'd look for resistance also at the upper edge of this pink channel. Minute wave 1 is completing as a 5-wave impulse. We have minuet 1, a little zigzag lasting 3 days for minuet 2, an impulse for minuet 3, which is $1.89 longer than 2.618 the length of minuet 1, so there's a nice Fibonacci ratio here between 1 and 3. Minuet 4 is an expanded flat, also lasting 3 sessions, so there's beautiful proportion and perfect alternation between 2 and 4. So my target for 5 is for it to reach equality in length with 1 at 1864. That's a really conservative target for a cryptocurrency though, so if that target's wrong, it's not going to be high enough. For now, minuet 4 may not move into wave 1 price territory below 1640.11 when the fifth wave could be complete, so as soon as we see a new high above the end of 3, make a note, not above the end of sub-minuet B, the price extreme of minuet 4, but only above the end of minuet 3. As soon as we see a new high above 1854.43, the fifth wave could be over at any moment. As soon as that happens, the invalidation point moves down to here, 1521.78, because 2 to come may not move beyond the start of 1. When 2 arrives, I'll expect it to last at least a couple of weeks, maybe 3 or 4 weeks, and it could be very deep. The weekly technicals for Ethereum show a strong upward week which pushed above what was previous resistance at 1716, but couldn't make a new close above 1800 with a slightly bearish upper wick. But it comes with a nice increase in volume. So volume is now starting to show a beautiful increase. This is bullish for the short term at least, if not the middle long term for Ethereum. This is a normal look coming off a low. Volume is still light relative to back here, but it's showing a nice steady increase. That's what we want to see. ADX has now reached below 15. It's now got just a positive slope, but it hasn't reached 15. If it can do that tomorrow, reach 15 and move higher, then this would be the strongest bullish signal ADX can give, and as it's coming at the weekly time frame, I would give it a lot of weight. So if ADX reaches 15, that's the black line, it has a positive slope tomorrow, then it's giving us a strong bullish signal, telling us Ethereum is in a very early stage of a new upward trend. RSI is still in neutral territory. There's a long way to go before this trend reaches extreme. Money flow also in neutral territory. On the daily time frame, and it's moving above what was resistance at 1800, it looks like today it may be able to close above 1800, and so now the area may offer support. If it closes above 1800 today, expect it to move on up to next resistance at 1880. If we see a pullback, look now for support at 1800. Some increase in volume today as price moves higher is good to see, although it does remain a lot lighter than strong upward sessions from last week. That's okay. As we move up into the next upward push, I would expect volume to start off light and then show an increase. We're only in the first couple of days here. ADX has now reached above both DX lines, so technically the trend is extreme, but not very extreme and not nearly as extreme as it can get for this market. So still an upward trend in a relatively early stage for this market. RSI is again overbought. I'm not going to consider divergence because there's no pivot developed on today's candlestick. Money flow is neutral. The daily chart for XRP, I'm going to label microwave 4 over, now looking for microwave 5 to move beyond the end of micro 3. As soon as we see a new high above 0.5863, then micro 5 could be complete, and then the invalidation point will move down to here. Sub-minuet 4, the next fourth wave when it arrives, may not move into sub-minuet 1 price territory below 0.5102. But for now, while micro 4 may still continue further, although the proportion would be pretty horrible, but technically it could, I'll leave the invalidation point up here at 0.5307. When minuet wave 1 could be a complete 5-wave impulse, then for XRP, the invalidation point will move all the way back down here to 0.4743. The following pullback for minuet 2 may not move beyond the start of 1, and I'd expect minuet 2 to last at least a couple of weeks, maybe even 3, 4 or 5 weeks. Weekly technicals for XRP last week had a reasonable upward week with a bit of a push from volume, but it's got a bearish upper wick, although today, Monday, XRP is having a strong upward session compared to the other two. I'll be looking for strong support now at 55 cents. Last week, volume was pushing price higher. It was highest it's been for several weeks, so that's bullish for XRP. It's not stronger than these previous weeks, but that's okay. It usually starts off slowly off lows. So long as we see that steady increase up off the low, that's a bullish volume profile. That's a normal look around sustained lows for these cryptocurrencies. ADX at the weekly time frame for XRP is still declining. There's no clear trend. With no clear trend, I use the model of stochastics and support and resistance. Stochastics reached properly oversold. It's now moving into neutral with a positive slope. Price is moving up off support. I'll expect overall an upward swing to resistance at either 82 or 91 cents to continue until stochastics reaches overbought at the same time. Along the way up, if ADX turns around and tells us there's an upward trend, then I ditch the model of stochastics plus support and resistance and go to using ADX, RSI and money flow. Today's session for XRP is relatively strong, hasn't made a new high above the 24th of October at 0.5863, but it has moved comfortably above 55 cents. So now price is closed above 55 cents on the 29th of October and continues up on the 30th of October. Let's expect support for any pullbacks here at 55 cents, and that should be relatively strong. Volume was declining the last few sessions, but for the last 2 sessions, volume is now moving higher along with price moving higher. So the volume profile may starting to be starting to show some strength again. Overall, the volume profile is still bullish. A really strong upward session last week, and lighter and declining volume on downward sessions. Now some increase again on upward sessions, although they do remain light. This is normal for the start of a new upward movement. ADX is now above both DX lines, so technically for XRP the upward trend is now extreme, but it's such a long way to go before it's as extreme as it can get. So this is still a relatively early stage for this market when it has a strong upward bullish run. RSI is not overbought, it's still in neutral territory. As is money flow, there's a long way to go for this upward trend before it reaches danger territory. That's it for a quick update from me today. I'll be doing VE chain for you today and working through my list of what you voted for this week. Thank you so much for your participation in the vote, everyone, and I hope you all had a really lovely weekend.